This is Kyle Cord, and you're listening to Austin, Felix, and Matt on the Devy Debate.
Welcome to the Devy Debate. All right, boys, are we ready to debate? Austin, you tweeted something, or you tweeted your running back rankings. Explain yourself.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand, fellas. You jumped up a notch.
That's Austin Nace.
Who is going to be that guy? And for me, Bijan Robinson is still going to be that guy.
Back to the ground with Robinson, who spins and then tries to bounce it. A stiff arm, another one as he rides it, keeps his balance. They're going to say he stepped out, but up.
I'm Felix Sharp. I know you didn't think that we would get through this episode without mentioning the name one Zach F. Wilson.
Screener draw. Oh, Wilson is going to uncourt for the end zone, and he drops it in beautifully. And it is his roommate, Dax Milne, on the touchdown.
That's Matt Bruning.
G. Scott Jr. Obviously, I whacked poetic about him on the last episode, so I won't do that again here.
And this time it's Fields on the carry. Watch out! Justin Fields, hello Columbus, 51 yards.
Bruning, are you ready to go head-to-head with me?
I am.
Got to get my popcorn out here. Hold on.
Got to continue. I got it. Kyle McCord is going to end up winning the job. He's going to be rated higher.
Well, I'm not nearly as passionate about what I'm about to talk about.
Our apologies to Kirk Herbstreit. We ran out of time. We'll get him rescheduled soon. And for Matt Bruning and Austin Nace, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck. It's 9:30 Eastern time, the time zone that made the most in NIL money. That means it's time for the Devy Debate, brought to you by CampusCan.com. That's Matt Bruning, that's Austin Nace, and I'm Felix Sharp. And Chris Moxley joins the show for another show. On a decommitted version tonight, we talk about tonight's show, we talk about players you haven't heard of, or at least most of you. Is Austin a racist? And is Texas A&M's class really that good? But we start with Travis Hunter. For those who don't know, he is the number one ranked player in this 2022 freshman class, had been committed to Jackson State, committed to Florida State, and spurns Florida State, his heads to Jackson State. It's an unprecedented move. He's getting NIL money from Barstool Sports, is the report. Barstool already has a relationship with Deion Sanders, of course, the head coach at Jackson State. Austin, this is really, unprecedented. We've seen college football change. We've seen high school kids sit out their freshman season. Now we're seeing the number one ranked recruit in the class going to the HBCU Jackson State. This is quite the move.
So contrary to, I think, what was kind of reflected in our, the Campus Canton Discord today, I actually don't really have a strong opinion on this specific commitment flip either way. I don't necessarily think it's a very smart decision on his part, but I don't necessarily have that strong of an opinion on Travis Hunter in particular. But what I do think is, like, I think if that's the story, I think over the next couple of weeks, as people dig into this deeper, especially, national reporters and people that have kind of inside connections, what I think the bigger story, the ones that are around the periphery, are how much of a failure the NCAA has been in implementing NIL up front here. I think that is the big story here and the big takeaway. The fact that the number one kid in the class, one of the top by most accounts, and again, he would be the best wide receiver in the class, and he's also the best DB in the class. He's going to go play DB. The fact that he can be swayed by a couple $1 million from Barstool at this tiny little college, with a head coach that probably isn't even good, with teammates that probably aren't even good, because Barstool can pay him more to go there than whoever Georgia is affiliated. Like, they've got charities in Texas paying those players. Like, people are donating to charities to, like, they have just completely botched this whole thing. And their whole line has been, we're waiting on Congress to tell us what we can and can't do. That's convenient now when you've basically declared for years that you're outside of congressional control, that the law does not necessarily apply to you, that you are your own institution that creates your own rules. And all of a sudden now it's convenient. It's created this whole system in which it's the Wild West, which teams, players just, I mean, I'm not against players making money. I am against the way that they currently have this set up right now. And I think just this Travis Hunter move is the number one example. And to be honest, might be something that just completely destroys this in the short term for people if the NCAA and whoever finally get around to addressing it.
Just say it, Austin. Just say it. You don't want the kids to make any money.
I'm fine with them making money. Actually, it's great. I wholeheartedly, but I think combining this all at the same time with this extra COVID year, with unlimited transfer portal, with I think implementing all this at once was just poor construction on the NCAA's part.
That's not the NCAA. I actually agree with that take that the NCAA messed up here. That's my biggest takeaway also, that the NCAA had a chance to regulate this, get ahead of it, knowing it was coming eventually, and said, you know what? We're going to fight tooth and nail to not pay these players, to do whatever we can to keep the money in the pockets of the university, keep the money in the pockets of the SEC. It's a nonprofit. Bullshit. You had a chance to prevent this, and you did not. Now you're getting screwed. Guess what, Dabo? You out here complaining. I don't care. Guess what, Lane Kiffin? Out here complaining. I don't care. I love this. I love this for Travis Hunter. I love it for everybody involved. And I do have a strong Travis Hunter take. This is fantastic for him. This is one of the slickest moves that I have seen from a player since Quinn Ewers did the same thing like a year ago. Here's the thing with what he's doing. He is going to a school, securing the bag, getting allegedly a documentary about him similar to the one Ben Simmons had with LSU. He is then eligible to transfer whenever he wants. If he chooses to do so, if it's not working out there, then he can say, okay, I'm going to go. When Deion Sanders leaves and gets a Power 5 job, he can then follow Deion Sanders. This NIL deal is set up with Barstool and a relationship with Deion Sanders. And guess what? None of that's going away wherever he goes because he committed to Deion. He did not commit to Jackson State. I think he did partially. I think it's a big deal in terms of what it brings to like the HBCU landscape. And I actually read the stat earlier that was only 13 schools at any level have ever had more Hall of Famers. Pretty interesting. But this is like a no lose for Hunter. I don't know how he can lose here. And everybody that's pissed is, I think there is an element of people are mad to see an HBCU get it over like a predominantly white state college like Alabama, like Ole Miss. Like, who wants to go play for a state that took down the Confederate flag 2 years ago? Like, why would you want to go play at Ole Miss? Their mascot is the Rebel. Like, I don't blame these kids going to HBCUs. Like, I just love this for Hunter. Like, this is just awesome. Sorry. I'm very passionate about it. I love
it. Woo! I'm sorry, Master Austin. You gonna have to come back with some retort right now, Master.
I'm actually writing my resignation right now. Can I clip that and put it in here as an example of why I'm
right
leaving?
ahead?
Okay.
Go right ahead. We'll read it.
Thank you.
No, I honestly agree with 100% with Moxley and Austin. I mean, you didn't come in as hot as I thought you were going to, because I don't disagree that the NCAA...
There was a 0% chance of that happening ever in a
I know. I don't think that I agree that the NCAA messes up. I just don't understand why everybody has an issue with it, because if we're being realistic, we're talking about, Moxley just said, the kid got the bag. Like, let's also be honest. These number one recruits don't always work out. And if you want to take it just from a football perspective, he could literally, whether he committed to Florida State or now with him going to Jacksonville, it doesn't matter. What if he goes out there and blows his knee out and is never able to play football again? At least he just got set up to at least provide himself and his family some kind of money. So why does it matter? Especially with Moxley just mentioned. The transfer portal has completely changed college football. He could stay there for 1 year and then transfer out, and for all we know, go to Alabama. And just like Quinn Ewers did, not even 12 months ago, it's been half a year since Quinn Ewers did this exact same thing. He gets paid $3 million by Kombucha, who I've never even fucking heard of to begin with. And now he's going to Texas and probably going to get another. I'm sorry, I don't drink healthy stuff, Moxley. You're looking at me like, I don't know what that is. If it's good for you, it's not going into my body. So, it's And then he's going to Texas, who, as you mentioned, Austin, they've got charities now willing to pay these players. So he's going to make even more money. So I'm 100% on board. Good for Hunter. Glad he made the decision. I have no doubt it's going to work out for him, whether he stays there all 3 years. Because as you just mentioned, he's so damn good on offense and defense that the NFL is going to draft him regardless of where he plays. So he goes, he gets the bag. Good for him. We'll see what happens.
I do just want to note that overwhelmingly the number 1 overall player in the composite over the past decade has gotten drafted and generally has gotten drafted very highly, barring injury. I mean, some of the quick hits. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is on there. Rashawn Gary, Robert Nkemdiche obviously didn't work out in the NFL, but was a first-round draft pick. I mean, they generally, barring injury, get the draft capital.
Right, but the injury thing is the thing we don't know. You can't predict that, right? Like, you don't know that he doesn't go out there and in his first game he goes to tackle a wide receiver and his leg gets twisted where he shreds his knee. And we were just talking off air about a freshman that Felix likes that has not been able to play in 2 years because of a horrific knee injury. If that same thing happens to Hunter, at least now he has something to fall back on. In the past, or say he goes to FSU and they pay him $500,000, whatever. That's not 1.5 million, 3 million, whatever he's going to get.
He was going to make more than that.
What we have here is we have the players finally treating this like a business, which is what the coaches have been doing, what the universities have been doing. In fact, the only people who haven't have been the players. And so I think this is a good thing for not only for Travis Hunter individually, but I really think that the attention that a decision like this brings to college football is good for college football. It's definitely good for Deion Sanders, the attention that he's bringing. I mean, how many games did we see on ESPN of Jackson State this year? I mean, they were on ESPN all the time, and that's just going to continue. It's good. It's good for the game. It's good for the game overall. It's good for us, quite frankly. All right, let's talk a little bit about, and we probably didn't say this, but if you don't know, it is early signing days today. Players can actually sign with universities, their letter of intent.
Which is meaningless now, but that's like completely beside the point.
It is. But Matt, Xavier Worthy signed his letter of intent with Michigan. Matt, what was your favorite commit of the day today?
I'm going to go with 2. Both we expect. It's not any of the flips. I don't think any of the flips can really go to what Travis Hunter did today. But Gavin Sawchuk sticking with Oklahoma, and then Nicholas Singleton with Penn State. Singleton has looked even more impressive his senior year. I really think he has a chance to beat out some of Saquon Barkley's stuff, including when it comes into the weight room and everything. Is as freak of an athlete as Saquon Barkley is. I think Nicholas Singleton is right there. We've seen Penn State has kind of really become known for that weight and conditioning program there. I think Nicholas Singleton is about to be an absolute beast. So seeing him stick with Penn State, I think he's going to be better than Katron Allen. Just in all honesty, what Penn State is doing, they've got the second best recruiting class in the Big Ten. And I'm almost positive they're top 10 right now in the nation, bringing in Aller, Singleton, and Allen. My goodness, who is Caden Saunders, the wide receiver? So they've got a really good class. But seeing those two running backs stick with their original schools, in Gavin Sawchuk with Oklahoma and Nicholas Singleton and Penn State, were kind of the two that I was really excited to see today.
Matt, as we go throughout the show today, we're going to be saying names that some people have not heard of before. So if you could just briefly explain, who those two players are, maybe a comp for them, what you think their strengths and weaknesses are, just briefly. And we'll need to do this throughout the show today.
Okay. So I'm going to be honest. I don't really do comps. I don't like doing it most of the time because I just shoot for the moon and I'm never right. So I don't like to do comps.
Felix once comped Graham Mertz to Peyton Manning on this show. So I think you're safe. Whatever you want to say here.
That is very true. Gavin Sawchuk, I'll start with him. He's lower ranked. He's in top 12 for all of us that are ranking freshmen at the site. I'm the highest on him. He goes to Valor Christian High School in Littleton, Colorado, same school that Christian McCaffrey went to. He gets a lot of comps to Christian McCaffrey. I do not think he's quite that good, but he's a good receiving back, really good running back. Weakness is probably his size. 185, 5'11". I think he could put on a little bit of weight. I think he's got a lot more speed than Austin and those guys do. It's kind of, I think, our biggest biggest kind of gap between us. I think he's got a lot more speed based on things that he's told me. Doesn't necessarily translate on tape, though. Nicholas Singleton is just an absolute beast. I think, we all talk about Jaden Blue being the best running back. I think Nicholas Singleton could be the best running back. He's power runner, speed, can catch the ball. I don't, off the top of my head, remember how big he is, but he's big. And I mean, he's
210. Yeah, like
210. Yeah, and for his speed, you're looking at like a Saquon Barkley type athlete. I think. Like I said, I think he can go in there with that weight and conditioning program. I can't remember what the weight thing is that Barkley did, the squats and the bench and everything. I think Singleton can go in there and beat it. Like Singleton's going to be a kid we're talking about this year as a freshman running back that's going to kind of burst on the scene, and for 3 years as long as he stays healthy. Like I'm kind of wondering if Katron Allen might have wanted to possibly transfer with as good as Singleton has looked, especially on his senior film as well.
Candidate for the next Travion Henderson there at Penn State.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, Austin, what was your? I mean, other than Hunter, who you despise, what was your biggest surprise today?
I don't know if I had a lot of surprises, but I think there are some players that, spoiler, we're going to do a little bit of a mock draft here in a few minutes. And while they might not make it into a 2-round, the first 2 rounds of a freshman only draft, I think they're very much worth mentioning. The first is Isaiah Bond, listed as an athlete in the 24/7 composite, but he is going to go to Alabama. He's going to play as a wide receiver there. It said that all over the stuff that Alabama posted today. So I think, there was debate about whether he'd be a DB or not. He's like 5'11", 175, 180 pounds. And just the thing about him is he's a speedster. Like he's exactly what Alabama needs. They're going to lose Jamison Williams this offseason. And even though they have some other guys on that team that I really, really like, I really like JoJo Earl. He's not a field stretcher per se. I like Ja'Cory Brooks. He's not a field stretcher per se. Christian Leary, another top kid they brought in last year, that's not his role. Isaiah Bond can do other things, but I think that is what he's going to do at Alabama. I think he can do it at a very high level. It's very telling that when he decommitted from Florida following Dan Mullen's departure, I think he might have left a little before that. The writing was on the wall for a while. That Bama jumped on it because they needed another guy. They don't have another guy. They don't have another guy in this class. So he's a guy that I'm really looking forward to. I don't know if he touches the field that much as a freshman at Bama, but he's a guy that I really like. He's my 7th ranked wide receiver in this class. And I think he can be a really, really good player down the line here. I don't really have a comp for him, but I'm just 180-pound field stretcher. Like he's a good player. He's fast. He's very, very, very fast. The other one that I think I like, just from like this is a really low-rated guy that signed today.
Is he someone who can come in and compete right away for playing time? I mean, if he's a field stretcher, you would figure that he'd have a role the same way Xavier Worthy. Well, he had not only a role, he was their leading receiver. But if you would figure that a player like that is going to find their way onto the field, given that there's not another player with that skill set on that team.
I want to say yes, but it's a freshman wide receiver at Alabama. Like they don't really take those jobs. And actually, like if Mechie and Jamison Williams leave there this year, that actually is like a fairly empty wide receiver room. They have like 7 guys coming in this class that are like anywhere from like the hybrid RB wide receiver guys to like tight end that are going to slot in there. But they bring in a lot of guys. But again, Bond is the only guy. So does he? I could see him doing special team stuff. But again, that's also like JoJo Earl's specialty, Christian Leary's like that's all these guys' specialty already. And Saban puts the best guy back there, like no matter what. So I don't know if he'll actually play this year or not. I really, really like him. And then Ashton Gianti is the other guy. He's this running back. He's going to Boise State. Is fairly lowly rated in the composite. I can't really figure out why at all because he's 5'9". He's almost 200 pounds. He looks like he's got some frame there to add some more weight. He's a really, really well-rounded player. He can catch passes at a high level, one of the better pass-catching backs in the class. He's good between the tackles. I think speed-wise, he can get down to the 4.55 range, which is more than good enough there. And Boise State is not a place where there's a lot of guys in your way. Like they have George Halani, who I guess is alive again. He came back at the end of the season, did a few things. And then they have like 1 or 2 other Jag-ish type guys on the roster. Like this is the kid. He's from Texas. He can go in there, I think, contribute right away as a freshman or, by the end of the season as a freshman and then take that job. And Boise has a pretty good track record of these running backs hitting the NFL. Again, I don't have a comp for him. He's kind of that bowling ball-ish build kind of like a Damian Pierce, CH, like that mold, but like he's a pretty good athlete. So I really like both of those guys, and I think they're two that you should be keeping an eye on.
We'll get Alan True on, and we'll ask him what's going on with this player. Carson Steele was one of those guys last year, and Alan actually mentioned that he was someone that he was upset that they didn't have ranked higher. Chris Moxley, what was your biggest takeaway from today? Unmute yourself and let us know, Chris.
Dang it, sorry. I think the biggest thing for me is that if you left for schools that are hiring coaches earlier, I think are making the right decision. So a good example of this is Joey McGuire at Texas Tech. That class rounded out really well, and they hired him like a handful of weeks ago before the season even ended. And you're seeing coaches take these jobs earlier and early. And part of that is early signing day, but it's also rounding out a class. You need to be there early so you don't have questions about kids decommitting. You don't have questions about what your class looks like in general. You need time to be able to fill out a class. And I think the new norm is going to be, we see these coaches move on earlier than maybe anticipated. Like, we saw a bunch of coaches leave in the middle of the season or leave at an inopportune time. Like, Brian Kelly probably could have stayed for a handful of weeks. He left because he needed to secure that class for LSU. So I think with this early signing day stuff, you're going to see a lot more coaches leave for legitimate jobs earlier and earlier. We might see guys leave in the middle of the season if a coach gets fired at this point, right? Like, Georgia Southern hired Clay Helton in the middle of the year, or Georgia State. Georgia Southern. Hired him in the middle of the year. And I don't think that was an accident either. And that's kind of my biggest takeaway, that you're going to see college landscapes shift a lot if they maintain the early signing day, which I don't think they should. But I think that's the way you're going to see coaches and the coaching carousel impact moving forward. It's going to be a lot different, I think, because you're seeing success from some of those programs.
If you are in campus to Canton leagues, all of these names that we're talking about are going to be important come your freshman drafts in March or April or whenever you have them. And we're going to continue to talk about them. Austin mentioned an athlete, and that's someone designated as an athlete. And that's one thing that I've picked up in the 18 months or so of doing these leagues, is that there are hidden gems in those. Diamante Tranium is one. That's just right off the top of my head. Consensus top 15-ish back for all of us. I don't have another one off the top of my head, but Jatavian Sanders, the tight end / defensive end who was there at Texas, should have a role in Texas's offense this year. So, pay attention when you're in those freshman drafts to the athletes, or just pay attention to campus2canton.com. We're going to be reporting on all of this stuff.
Jordan Addison, Darnell Washington.
Jordan Addison. Yeah.
A couple of guys from the past two classes that have been big names. Yeah.
All right. Austin, let me turn it over to you for housekeeping. I wonder if should we read that one review on the show? It's just really
It's
good.
really good. It's funny. Do you have it on the sheet?
I'll let you take it away, and I'll pull it up.
All right, guys. I'll go. I threatened 1 week, good results, laid off a little bit, not so good. Came back hot last week, got some more reviews again. We'll see if we've learned our lessons this week. We'll play it cool again. If you guys could please give us a review of the show on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcasts. I think a lot of the platforms have a review mechanism on them now. We would greatly appreciate that. Give us 5 stars. Tell us what you think about anything. Do you have that one pulled up, Felix?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead.
So,
like this
all right,
lovely
so
one from Mr. Levi Valentine.
This is someone who gets the show, so we're looking for somebody to top this. The title is Always Entertaining Despite Their Flaws. 5 stars, an insider with a perpetual inability to name the correct QB for his own team, a guy who likes to shoot deep so he can victory lap the few he gets right and avoid accountability for his misses, and someone incapable of providing anything other than a lukewarm take, somehow combined to provide some of the most entertaining C2C content out there. Love the show, guys. Thank you. The only thing that I wasn't sure who he was talking about is the avoid accountability. Like I'm the shoot from deep guy, but I don't know who the other guy is. So
I don't know who any of those guys are. I was kind of confused.
Williams a hit.
Mine Williams is a hit.
That's not.
Anytime you have, first of all, who's leading the Big Ten in yards per carry average, and he's a top 20 rusher in the Big Ten. I mean,
yards per carry is like a meaningless stat.
Yeah, even Jarek says so. And Jarek's the smartest guy at the website.
He is a top 20 rusher.
He's a top 20 rusher in the Big Ten. One whole conference. Yeah.
Should I continue? Should I go on?
Yes.
Argue a little more? Okay, I'll continue on then. Guys, if you have not checked out campus2canton.com and everything we have to offer over there, go ahead, do that. We've got articles. We've got a Discord with a couple hundred people in it. We've got player metric tools. We've got coaching metric tools. We've got ADP data is going to be starting to come out strong. I mean, we have a ton of different stuff over there, guys. $2.99 a month, $29.99 a year. Check out the YouTube channel in relation to that here. I know this show, you may watch it on there. We've been releasing a ton of videos lately, mock drafts weekly. We did a ton of get to know the freshman class videos today, just quick 5 to 7 minute videos on some of the top names that signed. So go ahead and get that, hit that subscribe button over there as well. We are giving a signed Jerry Jeudy jersey away over in the Discord if you needed any more reason to get in over there for members of the site only. Signed Jerry Jeudy Alabama jersey. I don't know if I said that last part or not. So go ahead, do that. And then Prize Picks is our last thing, guys. Go ahead, sign up over at Prize Picks if you're not familiar. It is a player prop type website, but it does like every sport imaginable. I know football is starting to die down a little bit. Go over there, use promo code C2C when you sign up, and you will get an initial deposit match up to $100. And if you deposit at least $20, you get a free year at the site with us, which, as I mentioned, was $29.99. So you can see there's a $9.99 savings there. So if you're, somebody that likes to take advantage of a nice deal, I'm just saying.
All right. Austin was very, very nice to everyone today. So I mean,
I'm
interested to see what happens. We got to talk about Texas A&M, Jimbo Fisher. They currently have the number 1 ranked recruiting class for 2022. And just to give a sense for how good that class is, last year, I think it was last year where Alabama's class was the highest ranked class ever. And their score was 327.76 points. So that was their total score. And Texas A&M has 321. So they've got 26 recruits committed. So not as good as that last year's Alabama class, but a very highly ranked class. Alabama does have the number 2 class with 317 points. So guys, what do we think about Texas A&M's class overall? Are we, are there some attractive options for Devy and C2C leagues players that we should be paying attention to?
As long as Jimbo Fisher is there, not really. Sort of joking aside, it's a very trenches heavy class. There aren't necessarily a ton of offensive guys there. I do like Connor Weigman. Apparently, we have been told it's not Weigman.
Is it Weigman? I thought it was Weigman because they say you pronounce it with W-I-G. So I assume it's. I don't know either. I would assume it's Weigman. That's how I.
I'll be really honest. I don't really care. We're in the ballpark. He would respond if I yelled that in a theater to him or something. So, Connor Weigman, one of the top quarterbacks in the class, is going to go there. Probably, Jimbo won't ever start fresh.
Well, let me just go through. I have the class up, so I'll talk about the skill position players. Connor Weigman is a 5-star rated quarterback, 99.01. So fairly, a high. Wait, does it go to 98? Is 98 where you get to 4-star?
Anyway, well, 5, isn't it?
No, it's lower than that. There are 4 stars that are like 0.89 somethings. It's like the top percentage of kids or something, certain percentage.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, a 5-star quarterback in Connor Weigman. Chris Marshall, a 4-star wide receiver.
So just 5 stars, the top 32 players get a 5-star to represent the top 32 picks in the NFL draft. So that is where this cutoff starts for 4 stars. It's not necessarily a number.
And then Jake Johnson, tight end, 6'5", 225, a 4-star tight end. Le'Veon Moss, a running back out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, who I've watched a little bit, who's really built like an avatar. He can touch his toes without bending over. Donovan Green, a 4-star tight end, and that's those are the guys that we're really going to be paying attention to. If Moss ends up backing up or taking over for LJ Johnson there, he could be somebody that we're talking about. But in Wegman, Chris Moxley is Wegman somebody as a 5-star we would be targeting. But what do you think about him? We should do it. He did it again.
I don't talk for like 3 minutes.
You were so good last week, which is why we brought you back.
Yeah, I blew it. 3. That's my 3rd strike. But no, it's hard for me to get behind any Jimbo player until I actually see them do it. Like, I'm willing to wait and then buy in later. Like Isaiah Spiller, like Jalen Watermeyer. Like I'm willing to buy those guys later, but I am not trusting his development until I actually see a player develop under him. So he's a guy I'm probably fading. If Max Johnson does go there, follow his brother, he's a guy I'm fading. Like if Evan Stewart, I don't think he committed today, but if he commits there, he's a guy I'm fading. Like all those guys, like I'll buy later. I just assume that when I see it, then I can be happy. But I don't trust him. He's just old school. He just doesn't play freshman, which is fine for winning. And I think it's helpful to their bowl chances and like national title hopes. But I don't love it.
He's never had an opening day true freshman quarterback.
Yeah. Well, he's never really developed anybody either. I know we've had this discussion a while back. Like, who's the best quarterback he's ever developed? Jameis Winston?
Jameis Winston.
He's still first overall
which
pick.
Which quarterbacks came out of LSU when he was the offensive coordinator there? I don't think anybody that stuck around the NFL, maybe Matt Flynn or something.
Was Zach Mettenberger there? Was that a Zach?
Oh, yeah,
Zach
might have been.
That's first round
Yeah.
All right. That's enough about Texas A&M is a boring team, in my opinion, at least offensively, but they do have the number 1 ranked class. So we don't know. I mean, we should. Evan Stewart is committed to Texas A&M, but did not sign today. I don't know why he wouldn't sign, but that is someone that we should pay attention to. The number 1 ranked wide receiver in the class, potentially going to Texas A&M. He had been previously committed to Texas. Been previously committed to Texas, switched his commitment, but now Quinn Ewers is at Texas. If they can somehow flip Stewart back, it's going to be a very attractive offense with Quinn Ewers, with Javian Sanders, with Xavier Worthy, Troy O'Meara, if he could ever get healthy, and then obviously Bijan Robinson, Jadon Blue. I mean, yeah, and they got Steve Sarkisian, so let's pay attention to Evan Stewart. That's a name that we should pay attention to.
Worthy was pushing hard to get Evan Stewart there. He had him up as his profile picture as well. So I don't know. Just to throw this out there, I know you said he hasn't signed today. They technically consider early signing day Wednesday through Friday. So if he doesn't sign by Friday, I might be a little bit worried. But we've still got time for him to make that decision.
At least he's not like the dude that flew across the country and then said that he's actually not signing today, like an asshole. So
and then he signed.
I would do it though.
Like 12 hours. Yeah, like he was like, oh, actually, I am going to sign at 3, and then he was like, oh, actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to sign at 5. Did he actually sign at 5? Did he pick?
Yeah, he signed officially? Kentucky.
Why not, man? Get a free flight and trip out of it. Why not?
If you were a coach and you had to put that money up for this kid, and he came down there and said, oh, actually, I'm not signing. You would just tell him to go screw himself, right? Like, I'm no longer interested in that dude if he pulls that stunt with me.
He still gets a free trip out of it. I mean, I'm not going to hate on him for it.
I don't get it.
Yeah, we know Austin's going to hate on him. All right. Let's go ahead and let's do a freshman draft. Let's do a freshman mock draft because as we go through this draft, or I should say as you guys go through this draft, you three have studied these guys. I am not as caught up as you all are. But as we go through these names, just talk about the players so that folks can get to know some of these guys that are going to be drafting in these freshman drafts coming up. Matthew, you have your hand raised.
Well, because you barely ever pause, so you don't give us much time to jump in really quick. So
no, because there's not supposed to be any dead air. So yes, I'm always catching.
So
dead
just
air.
to lay out the rules here, because I know we're doing Superflex tight end premium. Are Quinn Ewers and Wimsatt considered freshmen in this draft, since most C2 seniors were not allowed to pick them up even though they're already in college?
Right. I agree with that. I think that's a good point. And yeah, let's put them on there.
Because that just makes the 1-1 pick a lot easier. So I was just asking.
What's yours? Who many people have heard? Gavin Wimsett, who I didn't realize is from like 45 minutes away from me.
Oh, well.
Yeah, about 45 minutes away from me, 45 minutes west. Declared or reclassified, joined the Rutgers team early. Is Wimsett a 5-star quarterback? Is he a 5-star? 4-star. Anyway, very highly rated quarterback to go to Rutgers. You don't see that all the time, but Greg Schiano pulls it off. So let's all right, who's gonna start? Well, let's let Moxley have the number 1 pick since he's kind of a guest. I don't know. He was Reale and then he left us. But I think Mox is still technically a guest. So go ahead, Mox.
If Reale famously came back and took that show over, so Felix, I'd be really careful if I were you.
That's true.
Right about now.
No, can I just take Quinn Ewers? Like I think he's the best
no-brainer pick. Yeah,
I think he's the best player that's going to be available in your Campus Canton drafts. He's the highest graded quarterback ever. Everything about him is pretty much sensational. I think the big knock on him, if I'm going to give him one, is that he's like obsessed with off-platform throws. Like he loves doing it to the point where I think it's going to be a little bit concerning. Someone's got to rein him in just a little bit and say, listen, man, you don't have to make a Mahomes throw every time. You can actually make a normal throw, not sidearm, not like with 1 foot off the ground. That's my big issue with him. I don't think it's going to be a problem long-term. He's basically everything you want in a quarterback, plus a mullet. He's going to go 1-on-1, I think, in probably every draft.
Quinn Ewers plays as though he's in some sort of and one football mixtape. Like that's how he plays the position. All right,
it's fun,
Matt Bruning, let's go. It is fun.
It is fun.
It is fun. It is fun, but it's gonna.
He strikes me as the kind of kid though that just did that because he could. Like watch him come out next year and he's like 3-step drop, just hit it like very business like. Like I could very much see that happening.
You know the one thing that scares me with him, he hasn't played football in almost 2 years now.
Yeah,
and he's not throwing a pass either. Barely at practice at Ohio State. Didn't have a pass in any games. I mean, Drew Aller, who I'm going to take it too, threw 600 pass attempts last season. I mean, dude's getting reps. So I'm a little bit worried about that. But
sounds like Drew Aller is going to throw his arm out, and Quinn Ewers is going to keep on chugging. That's what it sounds like to me. I don't know.
That's probably true. So I'm taking Drew Aller. It is super flex. So I mean, he is the best quarterback now in the 2022 class since Quinn Ewers reclassified. He was the number 2 when Quinn Ewers was there. I mean, I love everything about him. I think he's got a smooth, easy release. He can hit all 3 levels of the field. Good with his legs as well. He can throw all over the field with little effort. I don't think he he's comped to Josh Allen on 24/7 Sports. I don't think he really runs the way Allen does, though. I mentioned that I think he's more of like a Justin Herbert when it comes to rushing. Like he uses it strategically. He doesn't just run to run like Allen does. Herbert bides time in the pocket. I think that's what Aller does a lot more of. He tries to bide time in the pocket and throw the ball down the field, but he's got touch on his ball, good accuracy. He can hit all 3 levels of the field. Like he's going to be a phenomenal prospect to watch at Penn State. I cannot wait to see him hit the field.
So you guys just left me the best gift you could have. I know it's Christmas time, but that was very nice of you. I'll take Jadon Blue, who is my number 1 player in the class if you ignore Quinn Ewers. I just love everything about him. I don't know if I've talked about him on this show or not before. We did a YouTube video on him. I've talked about him a lot on Canton Bound or on Campus Life, the C2C pod. He's just a very complete running back. He sat out this past year. It was the first, major high school kid to sit out as a senior to kind of preserve themselves for college. But already has the build at about 6 foot, 205 pounds. He's an amazing pass catcher. Like he could be an NFL level just pass catcher right now. That's how good he is. I think he's a glider, just has this natural feel for the running back position. He's going to Texas. He's the heir apparent to Bijan Robinson. Sark knows how to develop running backs. I really, really like him. There are people out there that will poo-poo Jadon Blue. I'm sorry. Like I'm staking my entire reputation on this kid. So I really hope he hits, or else I'm going to have to just drop off the face of the earth.
Jadon Blue out of Houston, Texas, a verified 10.7 100-meter dash, a 4.31 shuttle. This is a very explosive athlete. In January of 2020, measured in at 192 pounds. So very solid player. Compared the comparison from Gabe Brooks of 24/7 Sports, Jonathan Taylor Jonathan Taylor. All right. But he's just a 4-star. He's just a 4-star.
Dude,
it's because he didn't play this year.
24/7 has him as their RB4. They are by far the best recruiting service. ESPN has him as RB25. They've got him behind dudes that like I barely think are like Power 5 level players. Like I'm looking at ESPN's list that I have it up right. And I'm like, what is this garbage that they have him at RB25? Like it's
if you look at his history ranking on 24/7 Sports, you'll see it's because he sat out this year. He was up at the top of everything, and then because he sat out, you saw he dropped. I don't know if they're holding that against him or if it's because, as Austin mentioned, you got rivals and ESPN that just like, oh, he has no senior tape, so we're just going to drop him. Like, I guarantee you it's because he sat out this season.
All right, we're at pick 4. Moxley, let's. What do you got?
I'll take Nicholas Singleton. Matt talked about him earlier. I think if he isn't the best running back in the class, I think he's the second best running back in the class. I think he, just to add on to what Matt said, like he has pretty much everything you're looking for. It's already 210. He has a confirmed 10.89 100 meters, 408 shuttle. I mean, this dude's big. He's explosive. There's legitimate questions about like what his role looks like as a pass catcher at the next level. And I don't know if Penn State is going to utilize him that way. So that's the one question that I have. But I do think that, Gabe Brooks concept to Nick Chubb. And I don't think that's an unfair comp. I think he's incredibly athletic. And I think for me, it's like a top 2 in the class. And I think I have Blue ahead, but I think you can make the case for him being like right there if he does add pass catching ability.
Penn State could use a running back.
Yeah,
Matt,
in a major way. I'll take Branson Robinson here. And that's why I passed on Jadon Blue. I know he's Austin's top guy, and I wouldn't disagree if you took Jadon Blue at 2 with Quinn Ewers there. But with how good Singleton and Robinson are as well, I think for me, there's 5 tier 1 guys. I think Austin has at least 4 or 5 as well. Like these guys are all so close together, in my opinion. I think that's why you can pass on him. But Robinson, going to Georgia, so we already know, in my opinion, that's RBU with the way they've been able to produce these guys. He's already physically ready to play at a college level. Very good at letting his blocks develop. I think he's got very good vision, burst, speed at his size as well. What is he, 5'10", 220? I think he's a very complete running back. Maybe not quite the pass catcher that Jadon Blue is. I think he's a little bit better than Singleton. So he's right there in that mix. But I think all 3 of those guys, they're all going to be top 5 picks. It just depends on, does someone take Aller like I just did over these 3 guys, or is it Quinn Ewers and these run-on running backs? But I think if you get any of these 3 guys, you're set for the next couple years.
Did you talk about your player, or did you just talk about everybody else?
Yeah, I just talked about how good of a runner he was, vision, likes to set up his blocks, 210, speed, burst. What else do you want me to say? I just said he's not as good as a pass catcher as Jadon Blue, but he's better than Singleton. That's all I was comparing those two.
I zoned out. This comparison by Clinton Brewster of 24/7 Sports is one Samaje Perine. All right.
Not quite as flattering as the other 2.
Yeah, the other
is good.
Jonathan Taylor, Nick Chubb.
Samaje Perine.
I thought Samaje Perine was going to be a good player. I mean, I really did. All right. Let's go. All right, Austin, who you got?
I'm going to go Devin Brown here. He is my quarterback 2. Well, I mean, if you include Ewers, QB3. Going to Ohio State. I think, like, I have been very anti-Ohio State recruiting like a 5-star kid every year because there's no chance that a bunch of them will play. But if you do it like Clemson and Oklahoma have over the past couple of years, where basically you get a guy in there for 2 years, and then the 3rd year there's an overlap of 1 year with a high-level freshman. So they kind of sit for a year, they learn, and then they take over the job the next year. Those 2 schools have done that generally very, very well recently, and I think Devin Brown does fit into that. I think he can be the guy that takes over after C.J. Stroud went to the same high school that Zach Wilson went to and that Jackson Dart went to there. So they have a reputation for producing these guys, and he's just like a very... I think he actually comps very favorably to Jackson Dart as he came out last year. Kind of can do some off-platform stuff. Not an amazing athlete, but he's mobile. He can get out of the pocket. He's willing to run if he has to, but it's never like really his first or second thing that he wants to do. I think he has a very good arm. It's not a freaking cannon or bazooka, but it's a very good arm. And I think, again, Ohio State, that quarterback is always set up for success. I mean, we saw Dwayne Haskins tear it up there. We saw Cardale Jones tear it up there. I mean, these dudes that were crap tore it up there. And now I think they've had two really good guys in succession. I think Devin Brown is the natural next guy up there.
Devin Brown comp to by Sam Darnold by 24/7. I think quarterback comps are one of the harder comps to make because I feel like that is a position that lends itself to very unique play. All right. Chris Moxley, who you got here at 7?
I'm going to take a guy that I was really, really low on, and I kind of trust the evaluation of multiple people and kind of what I saw at the Elite 11. So I'm going to take Cade Klubnik. I think at the Elite 11, his big question that got answered was, does he have the arm strength to make crossfield throws and deep? And I think he answered some of those questions. He was a monster at Westlake, which that's not an easy schedule that he's playing. He's in Texas, 86-6 touchdown to interception ratio. This year, 17.1 or 71.7 completion percentage. He is a good player. He's the heir apparent. Whatever.
Say it, Austin.
If you mix those two numbers up, a very different.
17% to 71%. Not quite what you're looking for at 17%, but no, 71%. Incredibly impressive. I think he answered questions that I had about him when I wrote the profile for the Elite 11. I think he could take the job next year. I really do. If we see GGU come out and struggle, they didn't really have a backup that I loved all that much. Famachan, I guess, but I like Klubnik. I've come around on him.
Famachan's in the portal.
Yeah. Did he commit somewhere?
I don't know that part.
Yeah, I don't think so, but he is in the portal.
Yeah. But I like Klubnik.
All right. Cade Klubnik at number 7. Go ahead, Matt.
I'll take my next best running back because I think they're starting to get a little bit lower on the guys that I'd like. There's 2 guys I'd go here. I'm not going to take Austin's guy. I'm going to take my guy, Gavin Sawchuk. I talked about him earlier. I was excited for him to go to Oklahoma. Might not get to see a lot of playing time this year because it looks like Kennedy Brooks is coming back, and Eric Gray, I doubt transfers out because he's going to have to sit a year if he leaves. But 5'11", 185, I think he does everything. I mean, he's got tremendous lower body strength, which speaks to his contact balance as well. Does a really good job of bouncing off defenders, keeps his legs moving inside of piles, got good vision, good burst. I think he's got really good speed. He ran a 6.78 indoor 60, a 10.6 200-meter yard dash, and 21.81 200 as well as a freshman. So he's got decent speed. He, again, is on 24/7 Sports. He's comped a lot to Christian McCaffrey. I don't think he's that good, I'm going to be honest, but I do think he's a very good player. He does work with Christian McCaffrey a lot in the offseason to improve his receiving ability, which I think is going to show when he gets to the college level as well. Did not do that a lot in high school. The biggest thing is his size. He's only 5'11", 185, but I think he can put on a little bit more weight, and if he doesn't lose too much of his speed. Him going to Oklahoma as well, they seem to be still really building a good team there. I think with Nick Evers going as well, I think he's going to be a guy that really burst onto the scene in 2023.
And if you go to campus2can.com, you can catch Matt Bruning's conversation with one Gavin Sawchuk. All right, Austin, here we are at 9.
So I am going to take my last of my kind of big 4 running backs here. I have 4 guys, Jadon Blue, Nicholas Singleton, Branson Robinson, and then Trevante Citizen is the 4th one. Was initially committed to LSU, is no longer committed there due to the coaching changes there. So where he ends up is a mystery. There's been some rumors that maybe he'll go to Florida with Billy Napier. I heard a very interesting rumor about Michigan State the other day. Not sure how accurate that is, but regardless, he is going to find a home here. He has really nice size, 6 foot, 217 pounds. A very good pass catcher again. And I think the most intriguing thing about him compared to some of these other top guys in this class is that he just kind of started playing running back, like mostly full time. He was very much a dual RB/linebacker over the past few years, and they kind of limited his offensive snaps so that he wouldn't tire out. Jared asked here, what's your dream spot for Citizen, Austin? I do think if he went to Florida, he'd be the back for Napier. I mean, I know they have some other names there, but I do think he'd be very good. I mean, I'd love him at like TCU or USC. I mean, there's a lot of different places I think he'd be good. I don't know how far away from home he wants to go because he's from Louisiana.
If he went to Michigan State, though, too, like, suck for Jalen Berger, who's probably going to get bounced because Citizen's the better running back, but they lean all in on that one guy.
Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, he's a very good athlete. I mean, got great build, very explosive. I really, really like him. And again, I think he's just kind of scratching the surface of what he can do. As far as a comp, again, I probably don't have one, and 24/7 Sports doesn't have one either. I was prepared to go in there and click on it and have the comp him to some random dude that played like 3 snaps in the NFL, but they don't have any comps for him. But I just really, really like this kid, and I think he's going to be a very good player.
All right, Mox, that's Trevante Citizen at 9. Give us your 10.
I would have gone Trevante Citizen at Austin 10. I think he's the last guy in that tier. I think that's a good call. I think we're all kind of on the same page with Citizen. I'm going to take another quarterback, and it's Ty Simpson. And the big thing I like about Simpson, to be honest, is that he's going to Alabama. Like I'm gonna be honest. I think that is just a valuable player to draft and bank on, and that you can see a value rise almost indefinitely. And I don't know if Jalen Milroe is really going to stick around there. I think Simpson's probably a better quarterback than he is coming out. But, you know, Simpson's got a really, really great dual threat ability, excellent runner, put up like 1,200 rushing yards this year. The question comes down to arm strength with him, but I think he is accurate and can make the throws. Can he do it? Like, he's not going to, like, his arm isn't great, but I think it's good enough given his other physical strengths. So I'm just betting on an Alabama quarterback here more than anything.
All right, I'm going to take my wide receiver. Oh, God, we're only doing one round now. Okay, I'm going to take my wide receiver one. There's 2 wide receivers I want to go here, but I'm going to take DJ Allen. He's not committed yet. I love this kid. Really good speed. He ran a 10.82 100 as a junior in Texas 3A, plays basketball. Really good hands. He catches the ball away from his body. Good speed. Austin's little favorite thing he loves to say about good wide receivers, he can stack cornerbacks very well. At least I believe that's what you said about him at one point in time. It is important skill. I love how it's like the first thing you always point out about the wide receivers who can't do it. I love when I hear you say that. But I think he's extremely underrated. He's got extremely good speed. It shows on the field. He's got track speed. I'm very curious to see where he goes. He was committed to TCU, decommitted after can't remember what the guy's name is now for the life of me. Head coach, but that
Gary
guy
Patterson.
when he left. Gary Patterson, thank you, Moxley. That's why you're here. Gary Patterson left. There's a lot of talk that he'll go to Texas Tech. If he goes to Texas Tech with Kitley there, I think Allen's really going to blow up. He's been a top guy for, I think, Austin and myself for a while now. He's not very highly rated by any of the websites last I checked, but I think he's a guy who's really going to blow up, a guy you're going to be able to get later than the first round as well when it comes to these drafts.
All right, Austin, round us out with I guess one round is plenty for today.
There's so much pressure on this last pick. I do just want to point something out before I say mine, that notice how none of us have picked any of the top wide receivers in this class. I'm not saying it's a bad wide receiver class, but what I am saying is I think that the recruiting services generally this class have not done a very good job of evaluating the wide receivers. I'll leave it at that. Which it granted is a very difficult position. The number one receiver the past 3 years has gone on to do like nothing in college and the NFL. So, I mean, it's tough. How about, okay, I'll go with my wide receiver one then. I think my wide receiver one's probably a bit of a hot take, but I really don't care. I would have really liked if he had gone to Bama instead and he flipped kind of late in the cycle to Kentucky. So yes, Kentucky got my top wide receiver in the class. This is Berrien Brown. He is listed as an athlete, one of the top listed athletes in this class. I think, honestly, if wide receiver doesn't work out for this kid, he could be a really freaking good safety. Watching some of the stuff that he was doing there, you can just tell he's an extremely, extremely intelligent player. Like, just understands the game. And I think, like, he's probably the fastest player that I've watched in this class. He reminds me so much of Jalen Waddle as a mover. And the thing about him that I think a lot of these kids that are really fast in high school that they don't get, oh God, I don't even want to know. I'm just oblivious as I talk. Is that he knows he's fast, and he knows that defenses know he's fast, which is like one of those, well, I know that you know, but I think he then uses that to his advantage. He can see a defender is scared to stay with him, and he's really good on comeback routes because he can sell that so well. Like I think he's a really smart player. He knows what he's doing. He's explosive. He can stretch the field. I think he can be a really good yak guy. I think he can be a good special teams guy. I think he can play right away at Kentucky. So while I wish he had gone to Alabama because the Jalen Waddle comparison would have just been way too apt, I like this kid, and I think he's going to be a stud.
To recap, Quinn Ewers, number 1, obviously headed to Texas now. Drew Aller, going to Penn State. Let me back up with positions. Quarterback Quinn Ewers going to Texas. Quarterback Drew Aller going to Penn State. Running back Jadon Blues headed to Texas. Running back Nicholas Singleton headed to Penn State. Running back Branson Robinson here at 5 headed to Georgia. Quarterback Devin Brown headed to Ohio State. Quarterback Cade Klubnik, who is headed to Clemson. Running back Gavin Sawchuk, who is still headed to Oklahoma. Uncommitted Trevante Citizen, running back. Quarterback Ty Simpson, who's going to Alabama. Wide receiver where is DJ Allen going?
He's not committed yet.
Not committed.
Undecided.
Decommitted
Allen,
from TCU?
uncommitted.
He decommitted. Yeah, he decommitted. Yeah.
And then number 12, wide receiver Barian Brown, who's headed to Kentucky. Kroger Field, where I got my vaccination shot. So no politics here. All right. Anything else, boys, before we wrap up? Is that it? Stick around for the after show if you're interested in that, but check out all of the content around the Campus to Canton family. Of course, the Campus to Canton podcast network, and check out the YouTube page. We are putting up content on the YouTube page, including breakdowns of a lot of these players. But unfortunately, that's going to be our show for tonight. Apologies to Kirk Herbstreit. We ran out of time. We will get him rescheduled soon. For Matt Bruning and Austin Nace and Chris Moxley, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck.
I'm assuming we were laughing at Chris's geriatric. At least he called me geriatric and not racist. Yeah. So that's not the worst thing I was called during tonight's show.
I wouldn't put that on Twitter. People can find that easier.
Thank you.
That's the second time Felix has said something very controversial on this. Jared, not on this show. I think you may have made a mention to a very racist group at one point in time with Mr. Colin Decker.
Oh, with Colin Decker.
Show. Yeah, that was famous. So yes, Cameron Ward, Jared would be included in freshman drafts if he's. He won't be rostered anywhere actually. So yeah, he would be in freshman drafts, even though he's not a freshman. You'd be able to pick him up in the supplemental draft.
I'm really intrigued.
Where would you draft Ward?
First round.
Oh, really?
He's already done it in the FCS. Why not?
I don't know. I think I would take him. I don't think I could take him the first.
If he goes to Ole Miss, I would probably slot in as my QB3.
Yeah.
Like Ewers, Aller, Cameron.
Is he a dual threat guy, or is he just
not really?
Is he just a thrower? He's
really just.
They were talking about him on the Cover 3 podcast, and he's just a name that I've heard. Well, earlier in the season, like this is someone you need to pay attention to, and then now that he's in the transfer portal, I really want to pay attention.
Yeah.
It's very landing spot dependent. If he goes to Virginia Tech, I possibly don't care as much, but yeah, some of the spots he's gotten offers for, very intriguing.
I don't know who's going to be the offensive coordinator at Ole Miss, but I don't know if he's a good fit for Ole Miss. Like he's not really a rushing threat. He's like a way more pocket passer guy. Like, I don't think his rushing stats are very good. And so, like, is that a good fit in that scheme? Like, that's a really RPO-heavy, gimmicky offense.
Like, you can run a successful RPO, and the quarterback doesn't have to be a huge rushing threat.
That's true.
Like,
yeah. I guess it's a good fit.
They even said last year that didn't Mac Jones run more RPO than Justin Fields?
Yeah,
I believe that was a stat that I heard.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably like play action. Rushing. Like you don't have to be a good rushing team for it to threaten. It's the quarterback doesn't have to be a good rusher for the linebackers to have to at least respect it a little bit. So do you, Felix? You'll really appreciate my hand raising story, by the way, whenever you're ready for it. It's you'll especially like law school is like most grad schools, and even like most probably like advanced college courses to a degree. Like it's like you're expected, like it's your job. Like you just go every day. Like if you have to leave the room for whatever reason, you just like get up and walk out. Like no one says anything. We had this one of my really good friends from school. He sat in the front row of this class. He was like kind of scared of the professor, and she was like this naive, sweet little lady. And I forget what Matt did, but he lost a bet, and so we told him that we wanted him to raise his hand in con law. That was the class in the front row of con law 1L year. And when the professor called on him to ask her if he could leave the room to go to the bathroom. It was the funniest thing ever. Like,
that is also a very highbrow joke for
it's really
grad school. But yes, it is very much.
It would be like if you were at work and you were in a meeting and your boss was talking and you're like, "Mr. Smith, can I go pee?"
Would y'all?
We will take. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I was going to talk about my other fave player moving up to the from the FCS. I like Raymond Jefferson, the running back at Sam Houston. Like I think he's somebody that you could draft, and like maybe not the first round, obviously, but like early round 3. I don't think he's getting drafted. I think you could probably wait on him if you really wanted to.
Has he
APL
committed,
second team All-American. I mean, he was their leading rusher this year. He had like, what did he have? He had be cool stats right here. 1,100 yards, 13 touchdowns for Sam Houston. It's not like they get a murderer's row of defenses in Conference USA. It's like that's a workhorse back who is going to be undrafted coming into it. I think you should draft in freshman drafts. Like I was looking at him the other day. He got shut down by Montana State, but like Montana State's a really good FCS program. Like it is what it is.
Yeah.
He just has no receiving is really the issue. But I mean, if you're going to rush for like 1,113, that's good enough to start for like your season.
Has he committed to some other place yet?
I assume that he's staying with Sam Houston when they move to Conference USA.
Oh.
Are they moving next year?
I thought you were saying he was entering the transfer portal.
Them and Jacksonville State, right?
Yeah.
Jacksonville State doesn't have anybody I really want.
Jacksonville State has Rich Rod is there, right? I think Rich Rodriguez is the coach at Jacksonville State. Yeah, I want to say that's the case.
I don't remember now. I think you're probably right.
Rich Rodriguez, yeah, he is the head coach at Jacksonville State. Rich Rodriguez very much responsible for high-scoring West Virginia teams on the NCAA, like 2005, 2004. Pat White. I'm trying to think of who the wide receivers were.
Tavon Austin.
Pat White. Tavon Austin was one. But who was
Steve Slayton was the running back.
Yeah.
Owen Schmidt was the fullback. I'm trying to petition Owen Schmidt. Mock name.
Yeah, I just remember him doing that with his helmet and just like bleeding profusely. He like didn't start the game then, did he? Like he had to sit out for a minute because they couldn't make him stop bleeding.
Stedman Bailey.
Stedman Bailey. Yeah.
The listen, when I was playing NCAA, I was playing with Colt McCoy and Lima Swede out on the outside. And that's when I like look. Why not? Because he was a Steeler, and did he do something stupid?
He was dog poop for us. Dropped a huge touchdown pass in the playoff game.
I feel like he shouldn't have been playing. He never played for you guys. Why would he be playing in a
second-round draft pick? He played for the first year or two, and then he crapped the bed, and we never heard from him again. Yeah.
Well, that's when I learned how to user catch, and I just it didn't really matter what your defense was, who you had over there, because I could just throw the ball over to Lima Swede. He would have like 400 yards receiving each game. I would call whatever play I wanted to call. I would just audible to him to a go and just wait 4 seconds and throw it up to him and just come down with it like 70% of the time.
I thought Colt McCoy would be so good in the NFL. Like I really, really did. He got hurt late that year in the national.
But that
championship
offense
game or
is
whatever?
really.
I
I don't
broke his
remember
collarbone
if
like
he
first
got
play of the
hurt.
game, right? Or like first
Yeah.
drive of the game.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, they had a backup that was just not.
Yeah, he was not ready.
That was that. I remember that game. Yeah, they had somebody who was just not.
Who they
He was not ready. I
who
wish
were
I
they
could
playing?
remember who that was. It was. I feel like it was in the Big 12 championship game, or something like
I
that.
don't remember.
I thought it was the Natty,
No.
but I could be wrong.
It was a big whatever spot it was in. It was like somebody who had not played all year, and was just not ready. So, who are some other guys who you thought would be good in the NFL and just weren't? I feel like
It
Saquon
was the
Barkley.
BCS National Championship.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So it was. They're playing against Alabama.
Hmm.
The 2010 championship.
That should have just been the guess.
Yeah.
It would have had like a 40% chance of being correct.
Those were the boring Bama teams, weren't they? When they were like starting Star Jackson or whatever, isn't it? What was that dude's name? Star. Oh, come on now. Alabama had some bad quarterbacks even under Nick Saban.
The last of them were the Blake Sims era, and then they finally kind of
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
moved into prominence. Blake Sims was 2014, I think.
When was
Maybe I'm
Adrian
thinking of Blake
McCarron?
Sims.
Ooh, there's a good one. Kellen Moore. Yeah. I mean, if Kellen Moore had like 10% more arm strength, he would have been amazing for years in the NFL. That's such a bummer.
Yeah, he would have. Yeah. Yeah.
Max Johnson's
Times
announcing
okay.
tomorrow.
We think he's going to Texas A&M.
Texas A&M. I think so.
That's actually going to be a really interesting QB battle. I know that technically, like Wigman's not going to be a part of that battle at all, but like Haynes King, Max Johnson, I think is really intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
If King loses, does he transfer?
He should.
It has to, right?
I think so. Yeah.
I like Johnson more than I like King.
I don't like either of them, but
I don't think it's. I think it's gonna be really close. Like, I don't think either's the answer. Do you think Wegman's the answer?
not in year one. I think Max Johnson's less injury or less like turnover prone, and that deep, like they just keep drafting like all these huge. Like, I don't know. You just ground about like that's what they're going to try to do. I don't even think he wants the quarterback to throw more than 20 times a game.
Yeah.
Which is
he likes running the ball. He definitely likes running the ball.
That's a tough one.
If you're a recruiter at a Power 5 program, which one of these G5 wide receivers in the portal do you target? Mitchell Tinsley, Kanate Munfield, or Jadon Blue? It's not Jadon Blue. It's easily not Jadon Blue. And if Kanate Munfield ends up at Ole Miss, or quite frankly Houston, I'm thinking that Mitchell Tinsley ends up at Texas A&M.
Tinsley's already at Texas Tech, I thought.
Texas Tech. He hasn't committed there, has he?
I thought he had.
I don't know if he has either, but I think it's like a foregone conclusion.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to Texas Tech. I just don't know if it's official or not. Is Mitchell Tinsley that good though?
I have no idea.
He feels way more product of that system than like.
But he's going to the same system though.
But the question is, you're a recruiter at a G5 program. Which G5 receiver do you want? I don't want the guy that's a part of a system. I want a guy that I think can create on his own. It's not a Munfield.
Yeah, well, I would agree.
I don't know. I mean,
Blue's
that
just a
system
string bean.
is really good. I think like that's a really good system that get anybody open. Like put Kanate Munfield in that system.
Right.
Well, I mean,
and what's
I don't
crazy
think
is you're going to see, it started at Western Kentucky, now it's going to Texas Tech, and then eventually, like Kitley's going to get hired at, Michigan to run the offense, and you're going to see bigger programs continue to take it on. It's the same thing that happened with. Why do all of these offensive coordinators have connections with Texas Tech? They all do. All of them do. And Mike Leach is like the godfather of all these dudes.
The birthplace of modern football.
I mean, it is. It really is. Let's just go through the names.
Yeah.
Riley, the head coach of the Cardinals. What's his name? Kingsbury. Kitley was at Texas Tech.
3.
There's more than that.
I know there's more, but it's just really funny.
He's just like that. So
there's
3
more
of
than
them.
that.
Sonny Dykes.
Uh-huh.
Robert Ane, the Virginia offensive coordinator who I love. Obviously Art Briles, and then like the Briles tree that went like a million different directions, which Kentley is more Briles than he is like traditional air raid. I mean,
Harrell.
if you want to keep going from there, like Josh Heupel played.
Josh
for
Heupel? Yeah, I was just going to
Mike
say,
Leach,
Josh
right?
Heupel was there.
Yeah, I think he played for Mike Leach. I mean,
Josh Heupel.
Wait,
was the
Heupel
quarterback
played at Oklahoma.
Yeah, he played at
or
Oklahoma.
did he coach for?
I'm saying he coached with Mike Lee, or he coached at Texas Tech at some point. I thought.
Okay, so that's yeah. I know he has a Leach association,
but they've all like made stops with. And actually, no, he doesn't. I don't see. Texas
He was at
Tech.
Mizzou.
Yeah, he's at Mizzou,
So why do I think that he's part of the Leach coaching tree?
Oklahoma. He was a grad assistant under Bob Stoops at the University, then Arizona, quarterbacks coach at Oklahoma. That's who I thought was going to get Spencer Rattler, was Josh Heupel. I mean, it would have made sense to me.
Dana Holgerson. Did you guys mention him? Josh Heupel is one of Mike Leach's former.
Oh, Mike Leach was the OC there.
Yeah,
at Oklahoma.
I'm looking at his coaching tree right now. Josh Heupel, Sonny Cumbry, Lincoln Riley, Cliff Kingsbury, Dana Holgerson, Graham Harrell.
Because Stoops hired Mike Leach from Kentucky, and the story is like he's the toughest guy I ever had to scheme against. Then Heupel at Oklahoma. There we go. Time.
Okay.
Oh, I'd rather Spencer
I'd rather
Rattler.
have Hooker.
Oh, Spencer
For a college offense, I'd rather have him than Hooker.
Oh, where rather have Spencer Rattler? Spencer Rattler is good. I think he rehabs his stock. Probably gets top 5 pick
I
next
think
year.
that's within the range of outcomes.
Conveniently
I
sitting
can't tell.
behind you.
I can't tell if
That's
Chris
crazy.
is being, just a fan or being objective, but I do think it's in the range of outcomes that he can rehab his stock and become a first round pick. But I thought of Marion Brown
at South Carolina.
very, very good wherever he went. Now that was a terrible choice for Marion Brown last year to go to South Carolina, but now they've got Spencer Rattler there. I think that his skill set is more suits. But who are going to be the other wide receivers there?
Josh Van is coming back. I think they're going to run a lot of 2 tight end sets with Jaheim Bell, who's like built more like a wide receiver, and Austin Stogner, and then they have Landon Sampson, who might start as a true freshman. He was at South Lake Carroll with Quinn Ewers. He committed today, so it's not like I don't like the offense that Marcus Satterfield is running at South Carolina. I don't think it's a very good offense, and I don't like it is what it is. Like I have to put up with it, but like I don't love it for anybody involved. I don't think it's a good choice by Rattler, as happy as I am with it.
Rattler seems like he would be I think if you had to choose between him or DJU to rehab their stock this year, I would put way more money on Spencer Rattler to do it over DJU.
I would too.
Why?
DJU was just lost last year, like 1,000%. And we saw DJU play well in one game, essentially. And we kind of based
2 games.
He wasn't even that great in that Boston College game. He was poor in the first half. I believe, if I remember correctly, he had a really bad fumble.
but he was good.
It was his first game. I mean, I'm going to give him some leeway, but like to pretend like he was out there, just slaying Boston College, which first off is just like not.
But that Notre Dame game was such a big game for playoff implications, and he was a true.
And that defense was really good.
I mean,
really good.
it was.
Yeah,
and it was in South Bend. That's the other thing. It was in South Bend. Not only was it in South Bend, that was the night that Joe Biden accepted the presidency because everything got delayed with the count and stuff like that. That night was just ridiculous on so many levels. Like they actually cut away from NBC to go to him accepting the speech, and then that game.
I don't know that mattered to DJU and his performance at all, but I appreciate you putting the night of history.
There was
potentially
in the universe, like in sports. I mean, it was all intersecting. They cut away from it. NBC cut away from that game, that huge game, to go to the. I mean, it was a lot going on that day, and he played really, really well. I mean, they didn't lose that game because of him.
Yeah. Do you think that like Biden reached out to him beforehand and was like, "Have a good day"? DJ,
listen, all I'm just saying, like, it's just something that it's a very specific fact that you remember.
I just wasn't expecting you to go that.
I don't remember that game at all.
With that at all.
You don't remember that game at all?
I was expecting you to go a completely different route when you were saying how important it was, and then
you were what?
You were gone. I was completely gone.
You were out of it.
Yeah, I was. It was a night full of fun.
No politics.
No politics. I just said night full of fun. No politics. Yeah. Oh, y'all like my new shirt I'm rocking? It's my Matt Araiza jersey.
Your what?
Matt Araiza, the punter at San Diego State, who's had the best season of all time, should have been a Heisman finalist.
Oh, is he the dude that was kicking these 80-yard punts?
Yeah. He had the greatest punting season of all time. I think he gets drafted. Is he drafted?
Yeah, he's going to get drafted.
Oh, he's going to get drafted in day 2.
Day 2.
He's a baller.
To have a punter that good to flip the field like that. That is a real weapon. That is a real weapon.
He is so good. He holds the record for most like 80, 70, 60, and 50-yard punts.
That's crazy.
Like he's fantastic.
How high did Sam
second round
Sebastian Janikowski?
Janikowski went first. Yeah, he went first.
Have you heard the reason why he went in the first round too?
No, I have not.
It's bonkers because the Raiders didn't want to pay like what the draft slot was worth for like a skill guy. Yeah, that's like the story that came out years later. Go look up that like why if you Google like why the Sebastian Janikowski first round pick. Like there's all sorts of stories that came out like a decade later. It's amazing.
That's bad.
Love it.
And he ended up being like an amazing kicker. Like so,
he's a Hall of Famer, right?
Is he a Hall of Famer?
I think he will be. He isn't.
Yeah, it was. That's who I was thinking of, Kyle. That's what I thought he was going to ask about. Roberto
Aguayo. Yeah, who was from Florida State to Tampa Bay.
You live in Texas, Matt, and you can't pronounce any of these Latino.
I can't pronounce
names?
anybody's name, man. I'm horrible with pronunciation. I don't do anything good, like anything. I produce podcasts.
You produce a mean show.
That's all I've got going for me.
Yeah.
It's all I've got going for me. My wife tells me all the time.
World's biggest James Bond fan, too. Don't forget that.
That is true. I'm a massive James Bond
fan. You're the best at picking the Ohio State quarterback battle incorrectly.
That's true. I am really good at that. I'm really, really good at that. It's my calling card at this point. Clearly.
Did we talk about that on air?
Yeah, you read the review.
Yeah, you read it on. Yeah, you literally read it like 30 minutes ago.
No. Did we talk about your position on the Ohio State quarterback situation on air?
That Devin Brown could potentially beat out.
Was it Devin Brown or is it Kyle McCord?
I didn't say Kyle McCord. I said I thought Quinn Ewers could beat out CJ Stroud if he stayed, but he's not there anymore.
Okay. So you're not saying that Kyle McCord is going to beat out CJ Stroud?
I never said that, no.
Someone must be on the clock.
Matt, you don't do good at picking in the C2. Oh, my up. Sorry. It's been a long day.
I'm the worst. I'm the worst fantasy football. Like I don't set my lineups. I just
all the stuff behind the scenes here, Kyle, with early signing day is a lot.
I'm bad at setting lineups for the NFL too. Everything should be best ball. The only format you do should be best ball. I am like the time you take to set lineups and think about decisions. I'd much rather be doing something else. I just would.
I like setting lineups when I'm paying attention to it, but it takes a lot for me to even care. Like it just takes. Yeah. It takes. I'm like, it's 10:30. Am I going to look at these lineups? I'm like, nah.
See, I'm so pro best ball.
Kyle Larson, are you KL fantasy?
That's
what you're talking about?
That's
okay.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody.
Jared, are you anti? Are you anti?
You want to know how? You know how much I'm not paying attention to this? I picked Jalen Berger in the 5th round.
Jared hates best ball. If Jared had his way, we'd
later
still all
on.
be playing standard, and we'd be keeping track of our points by the
Good.
lines
That's
on
right,
a cave
Jared.
wall with a rock that we would.
I'm
carve
with
out.
you, Jared. Screw
He's a
this
purist.
best ball crap.
For
He's a
people
purist.
listening to this later on, we are talking to people in the chat and not reading anything that they're saying. So you're not gonna hear what it is. We're just
Bad
having an
radio.
open conversation.
They're gonna
With people who aren't
understand
talking to us, they're
when we're
actually
saying
typing to us, so.
screw best ball. That clearly Jared there is saying he does not think it should be best ball for campus to can formats, which I agree it should not. It's lazy.
So who was it you that was talking about like the injury exemption, like if like a late injury where you don't find out until like a minute before kickoff?
Jared, Froton posted that. Jared agreed with it, and I agree with it. It's not that hard. Like, so
that's so much more work than best ball.
Oh,
it is a lot of work.
Boo hoo! Like you guys cry about that. I commissioned last year the COVID season in the NFL, right? 20 dynasty leagues. I played.
I am sorry, I don't hate myself. I'm sorry, I don't hate myself.
I did that. I had the COVID exemption in every single one of those leagues. Hey,
you're a
guy goes on
masochist.
and you have maybe that's true, but it ain't that much work. If I can do it for 20 leagues, and there was a shit ton of players ruled out last minute last year because of COVID, you can do it for what is it realistically? It's maybe a player a week. It is not as bad as you guys make it out to be. You guys exacerbate it because it happens to one player. It's
more annoying because for COVID stuff, like we all knew it was a possibility. So you'd like pick a player ahead of time. There are times now where it comes to the 9 o'clock kickoff and they're like, "Oh, Alton McCaskill's out," and you're like, "Well, fuck, I don't have any feedbacks left on my bench." And there was no indication that he wasn't going to play.
But it doesn't happen as often as you guys make it out to be. Like it happened with what's his name? Is it not Chip Trayanum? Who am I thinking of? Rashad White. It happened with Rashad White right before the playoffs last year, and all you guys got your pitchforks out, and you're like, "Oh, he's not playing. Nobody told us." Then you do a sub-in thing. Big deal. It happened like 3 times I can think of over the whole season. But you guys make it act like it happens 5 times every single week. Like. So it happens one time, you switch out the player, boom, done, end of story, and you keep going. My whole point, and I get the best ball thing, and it matters to people like us, right, who pay very close attention, draft well, make a lot of moves, but when you have these beginner leagues and you're going to have someone who lucks into a lot of players, whatever, like the roster management part of leagues matters. Setting lineups matters because you make the wrong decisions, and that's part of it. I made the wrong decision in a couple leagues, and it cost me a championship. And I'm still over here telling you, best ball's not the way to go because that matters. If you cost yourself, that's what makes it so. It makes it a little bit more gut wrenching when you're like, I knew I fucking shouldn't have switched this guy out last second, but I panicked and I made that last second, and it just won Moxley a championship. And
like
Moxley,
I beat Austin Cunningham on your bench when he goes off is just like, God,
yeah, like you sit there and you're like, who should I go? Like I panic. I can't remember who the quarterback was. Who did I switch out? Damn it, I can't remember who it was. I switched out someone and I pulled. Was it Clayton Tune or not Preston Stone? Who's SMU's quarterback? I cannot for the life of me think. Tanner Mordecai. I pulled Mordecai out last minute on one of the last games of the season last year because I was like, you know what? He's playing a good defense. He's probably not going to put up points. And I put in somebody else, and Mordecai went for 50 points, and my quarterback scored 10, and I lost by 7.
That's completely different than the injury thing, though. Like, that's just a totally
different
thing.
Understand that, but if you go best ball, you're removing that. That's what I'm saying. You go best ball, you remove people making decisions. You can put the injury thing in and still allow people to make the decisions on their lines. It's not that difficult. Like, let's be honest, Austin, we talked about this in the offseason. You don't want to commission anymore because it's already a lot of work to begin with, right? So what are you commissioning? 5 leagues right now?
Yeah, roughly around there.
Okay, so you're probably going to make 15 moves a year, maybe, in all 5 of those leagues combined. Like, it's not that much work. It's really not. It takes like 5 seconds to go in there, you click the little commissioner mode on the app, you go, okay, switch, blah, blah, boom, done.
Best ball with 0 work for me.
Yeah.
Well, that's because you're lazy. You're an elitist. And I get it. Pay somebody else to do it. You've got the money. Like, it's just, it removes so much. I hate it. I think it's horrible, but whatever.
The best argument that I have heard is the one that Jared just said in the chat, which is set up a backup plan. People need to have control over their teams to get the full experience. I actually really like that for people who are new to the format, because that completely eliminates weekly research and you don't improve or learn anything about the format. I actually think that's a very good argument for growing the space. Like that's the best argument that I've heard pro non-best ball.
Well, because I also think, like I mentioned this before with best ball, like I think you're going to get people, and I know there are people who do this anyways, but in the C2C side, you're going to get, when it's best ball, they're going to stop paying attention altogether. Like Jared's saying, they're not going to make trades. They're not going to care. And it's just going to be all about the NFL side. I think that eliminates part of the league. Like, you're always going to have a couple people like that anyways. Austin, we play with a couple people we know do that specifically. Like, I don't care about the campus side. I'm all in on the NFL side. But if you go best ball, I guarantee it's going to turn into like those NFL leagues we do that are best ball. You just don't pay attention. You go and look at the end of the game like, oh, hey, cool, I made the playoffs. Great. Because a lot of the C2C leagues, you limit your waiver moves anyways to 2 to 4 in most of those leagues. So they're not going to pay attention. It just eliminates that whole side. And you're practically playing an NFL side and just seeing who your feeder team is, I guess is the way to put it.
Never heard of this guy, Adam Randall. Never heard of him. There couldn't possibly be a video up on our YouTube channel right now about what we thought of his commitment. You should go check it out.
Yeah.
Could start there as a freshman. Could.
Right here on this channel that you're watching, a video for him was just released like an hour and a half ago.
For what it's worth, I do not have him labeled as the GOAT, though. So if that's what the level that you're at, you might not want to go watch it. Andre Green's already pissed at me. I don't need anybody else upset with me.
I agree.
Jared's been back tonight. Yeah. I 100% agree as well, because people are way too much ignoring the college side, because like it's not a dynasty. Like that's really the issue that people are having. And I think if that was true, I think it would lead to much better drafts. Like I think people would draft a lot smarter if it was weighted equally.
I don't play in a lot of leagues where it might be like a 40-60 split, but it's not. There's money on the college side in all the leagues that I play in.
There's a bunch that I'm in that there's like 1 or 2 people that don't pay that close attention to the college side. And in 2 of them, it's the same person. Austin knows who I'm talking about. He admits that he doesn't care about the college side, though.
You might end up getting somebody who thinks that they're drafting for the NFL side, and then their team just ends up sucking. But I think in the most of the leagues that I've been in, people are trying to start the best lineup they can.
That dude, by the way, that flew across the country and didn't sign, and then said he still hasn't signed.
Did you see the story about the South Carolina linebacker
that flipped and then flipped back?
So what happened is Beamer came out today and had a press conference about it, and he said he was like, they asked him if he was surprised by the decommitment and flip, and he's like, no. After he committed to us, I got a call from someone in the know at Maryland who told me 10 minutes after this commitment that he was going to flip back. The plan was always for him to flip back. I don't know. Beamer wouldn't go into any details because I think
I'm not going to lie. If I was a coach and I had a kid do that on signing day, I'd probably yank that commitment. I would be an awful college coach because I think these kids that fuck around like this.
You'd be the Dabo of wherever you went. Don't believe in NIL. Well, you might believe in the transfer portal, but you'd be upset.
I believe in both. Everybody. I just don't think they have a good system yet for all this stuff. Like I get that, following a coach when they it's not right that the Nevada coach goes to Colorado State and literally the entire freaking team goes with him. Like, that's just not right. I'm sorry. Like,
Nevada should have committed more to their program like Colorado State is.
There's got to be some sort of limits on this, or it's just.
Yeah, but that happened last year too with Kansas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like it then either.
Yeah. Which, I mean,
part of it though.
I still think there should be.
That's the consequence of what the players asked for, though. The players wanted this. They wanted that one-time transfer rule to do whatever. And now some of them are paying the consequence of that, though.
I still think there should be some limits on transfers. Like, I think if you want to transfer in conference, I think you should have to sit a year.
That's it. That's it. Good night.
On that.